Hello, this is Danny Raymond, the voice behind Ray's Guide. Recently, there has been some alarmed players making presumptions about how jump points will be havens for malicious PvP gameplay focused on ruining the game for others, aka griefing. Their worries come from several sources. At the entrance, you must be sitting still in one place while waiting for the jump gate, that you must be in nav mode with your shields and weapons down as a result, and that people can block you just by stopping in front of you. At the destination, they are worried about the arrivals being spread out, making you unable to support your teammates against players camping the exit. Now, before addressing these, I should start with my general position about PvP. I am not against it. If there were no sharks in the water, it would just be swimming, and ultimately dull. Now, when you are actually under attack, it may be difficult being so sanguine, but if there was no possibility of things going really, really wrong, things would get dull much, much faster. But on the other hand, I have seen among the most intense PvP players a sense of bravado, that they are not just better than you, but better than everyone, and even better than CIG, because they can beat the game and there is nothing CIG can do about it, as well as a sense of entitlement. That because of piracy and emergent gameplay, they have free rein to do whatever mean, malignant mischief that they can dream up. And that is simply not the case. Piracy, from the standpoint of CIG and Star Citizen, is a career with a gameplay loop that involves disabling, boarding, capturing, and looting. Blowing up defenseless ships for the lulz is not piracy any more than pad ramming was. CIG fully gets to decide what malicious gameplay is within bounds, not you. And if the sharking was exceeding CIG's forbearance, then they are fully within their capability and responsibility to, well...
You son of a...
And if they want, they can be as brutal and arbitrary as they want. But it is more desirable if they can make it fit within the game lore and current game systems. So, in my more detailed suggestions, I will try to do the same. But I'm going to also suggest that CIG not go with any half measures. Just adding some more turrets or shields will, because of that bravado I mentioned earlier, will be waved off by this type of player as a pesky nuisance of little importance. No, CIG, if this is behavior that you want to crush like a cockroach, then crush it like a cockroach. And lore allows you to do that with impunity. Lore does? Yes, let's look back at the lore of how the first jump point was discovered and transited. It was called the Nesso Triangle. No fewer than 3 ships disappeared instantly without a trace before the whole area was declared off-limits. Now, how do you think those 3 captains reacted to a hostile, mysterious phenomenon?
Shields up.
Shields up! Shields up!
Yup, shields up, weapons hot, in other words, SCM mode in Star Citizen terms. Nick Croshaw decided that approaching it with a slightly modified quantum drive was how to do it safely. In other words, Nick Croshaw, like us, used nav mode when approaching a jump point. So yeah, you want to be a griefer and come up to pounce on us helpless nav mode folks while in SCM? Sure, go ahead and... where did that guy go? There was a guy there, right? As for the other problem, with blocking the jump point, there's also a readily at-hand solution for it. It begins with hearing the words, "Warning, you are blocking an active flight bay. Please leave the area immediately." How does that work elsewhere? Who knows, but is a long-standing accepted game mechanic, and since the ATC can use it pretty much any place else, there is little logic in it not being applied to Jump Point ATC. Now, as far as the detailed implementation goes, I would leverage another thing already in the game. Those glowing cubes used for cargo landing in the Hull Sea cargo stations. Well, as you approach the jump point in nav mode, the ATC directs you to one of an array of cubes in space, and you go and park in yours. Enter a cube not assigned to you, and, yup, you will promptly get impounded and fined for trespassing. So let's move to the opposite end of the jump tunnel and the exit points. And the concern about their being spread out. And being spread out, that they are more vulnerable to opponents trying to camp the exit. And if this turns out to be the case, the problem won't be that they are spread out too much. It is that they are spread out not enough. Because if they were spread out across the entire range of the jump point dust cloud, which makes sense since what else is the dust cloud but the material ejected from the jump point, And if randomized about those tens of thousands of kilometers, then your chances of landing within sensor range of the campers is practically nil, even if they spread themselves out randomly. And if they do spread themselves out randomly, you get a one-on-one. So much for camping, but how do you bring your party back together? Well, rally on the flag. Everybody in your party gets a navigable marker to the others in your party, right? Well, just have an understanding which of your ships in your party is the flagship, usually the biggest one, and after the jump, everyone agrees to quantum to them. If anybody is so unlucky as to be snared by pirates, then switch the rallying point to them, and your fleet is again promptly still together. Even if the pirate has buddies, they too have to quantum in, and so you are no worse off than a full fleet battle, not the lone vulnerable ship. So, will malicious players turn jump points in 4.0 into a griefer's hellhole? Well, they will try, of course, but will they succeed? Only if CIG wants to let them, and thus likely not. It might take until 4.1, but the means to render attempts at griefing are simple and relatively easy to implement, and supported by how jump points are actually supposed to work in lore. So to segue to one thing before closing, what about 4.0 in general? With 3.24 still being in Evo, what about the hints that 4.0 will not be at the end of the year but sometime earlier, presumably CitizenCon, less than 3 months away? Is that realistic? My judgment is yes, because ultimately 3.24 is a narrow-focus patch, really concentrating on just one set of features from one feature team on inventory and hangars. The rest of the teams aren't just coming in and doing nothing. 3.24 is not a major blocker to the feature set of 4.0, which is undoubtedly being worked on in parallel. So there may be an almost non-existent gap between testing of 3.24 and testing of 4.0. That would be a different story if there were features in 3.24 that were prerequisites to features in 4.0, but I don't see which ones they could be. So now for an update on our ship giveaways. To start with, we have the special membership level to cover costs of doing live coverage of CitizenCon with its own giveaway for Hull C, the colossal cargo container carrying craft. And although I am still expecting to make the trip to Manchester, the giveaway will still occur even if unforeseen circumstances the live coverage has to be done remotely. Plus, we have our regular Grow the Channel ship giveaways for the Zippy Zazzy Zaftig Zephyr, the Zeus 2 Cargo, which we're just waiting on the subscriber goal for, as well as the marvelous multiplayer multi-role mining meta, the Arasta. One entry per video. Be a member for automatic entry with each video, or subscribe and comment, somehow including the secret word. And the secret word for this video is the animal I compared griefers to. Fly safe, keep it real, and I'll see you in the verse. This is Danny Raymond for Ray's Guide.